So we usually think of crises as traumatic moments, but in most cases, the damage doesn't come from what happened, but from how we talk about this. So in this training period, we're going to see how communication behaves under pressure. I'll walk you through what to do and what not to do before, during, and after a crisis takes place. Okay. Let me see if... Can you see my screen? I don't know. Before I had the same problem.
It's again the first slide.
Yeah, I can see that. One moment. Sorry. Now, yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, sorry. I said my computer today is not working very well. So today we are going to see how to build a strategy around the crisis communication, because communication rarely solves a crisis, but it can either calm the situation or make it much worse, as we said. And today we are going to see how communication can either damage or repair reputation. So let's start with two examples of organizations that had different reactions to a crisis. I'm going to sharing. Can you see my screen? No. Okay. Okay. We are going to, the first example that we are going to see, I'm going to play a video. The first one shows what happens when an organization ignores a problem for too long and loses control of the narrative of the situation. So just for you to know, Dave Carroll was a country-style singer who traveled from Halifax to Nebraska, connecting in Chicago with United Airlines. And the guitar was broken. He saw that from the window of the plane, and he started complaining, but United Airlines didn't treat the guitar well and didn't treat Dave well because they didn't answer. He complained to everyone he could, but no answer. So I'm going to play a video now, and you can see that's the response that he finally delivered, because no one said anything to him, no one gave him an answer. He did this.
I flew United Airlines on my way to Nebraska. The plane departed Halifax, connecting in Chicago's O'Hare. While on the ground, a passenger said from the seat behind me, "My God, they're throwing guitars out there." The band and I exchanged a look, best described as terror, at the action on the tarmac, and knowing whose projectiles these would be. So before I left Chicago, I alerted 3 employees who showed complete indifference towards me. United, United, you broke my Taylor guitar. United, United, some big help you are. You broke it, you should fix it. You're liable, just admit it. I should have flown with someone else or gone by car. 'Cause United breaks guitars. When we landed in Nebraska, I confirmed what I'd suspected. Mike Taylor had been the victim of a vicious act of malice at O'Hare. And so began a year-long saga of pass the buck, don't ask me, and I'm sorry, sir, your claim can go nowhere. So to all the airlines people, from New York to New Delhi, including kind Miss Earlwig, who says the final word from them is no. I've heard all your excuses, and I've chased your wild gooses, and this attitude of yours, I say, must go. United, you broke my Taylor guitar. United.
So I'm not going to play the whole song, but you can see, if you search a little bit on the internet, you will see that this single, United Breaks Guitars, this is the title, became a success. It had like millions and millions of views, and United Airlines did nothing. But this was also an opportunity for Taylor, the guitar company. And I'm going to play now the video of the Taylor. What did Taylor?
And gosh, we've just watched this video that Dave Carroll posted over the last couple of days. Such an entertaining video about his horrible story about his guitar getting broken. And we have to tell you that we've been doing this for a long time. We have hundreds, if not thousands, of stories that are just like this where guitars have gotten broken. And we'd just like to say that we're here to support Dave and to support all you people out there that have had guitars broken. There's a lot of helpful information on our website under the news section, and it'll give you a lot of information about.
So let me share again my screen with the presentation. Presentation mode. I hope you can see.
Yes, yes.
Sorry, no, okay. Now again. Okay, sorry, yeah. So what did Taylor Guitar Company? He gave support to Dave Carroll. They offered Dave a new guitar, and they also gave some tips to travel with the guitar. So they took the opportunity, and which is very important, it's also that they used the same channel that they've used. So they didn't post on X, they didn't post on Facebook that we give our support to Dave, but we also created a video, uploaded to YouTube, and again, got a lot of views and got the opportunity to sell more guitars, to be known as a reference of guitar builders, and that was a great idea. Okay, another example that I'm not going to play this time, but the link is there because this is not a video or something entertaining. This is the creative director of this campaign and also the chief marketing officer of KFC. What happened here is that in, I think it was 2018, KFC in the UK changed its logistic provider. The transition went very bad, and chicken deliveries failed. And more than 2/3 of the restaurants had to close because they ran out of chicken. So instead of hiding, denying, not saying anything, they did something unexpected. They acknowledged the problem immediately and took responsibility. The response was a full-page newspaper ad showing an empty KFC bucket with the letters rearranged to spell fuck FCK alongside a short apology explaining what went wrong. So if you search on the internet, you will find the whole statement there. But something that they said was, a chicken restaurant without any chicken is not ideal. Huge apologies to our customers, especially those who traveled out of their way to find we were closed. It's been a hell of a week, but we are making progress, and every day more and more fresh chicken is being delivered to a restaurant. Thank you for bearing with us. So this was an opportunity for them to gain trust and to being seen as a company with humor gain trust, and they were found in their minds, in the customer minds, like a good company that acknowledged the problem, took responsibility for it, and it was a really good act. So we are going to see that the before, during, and after, as I said. So the before moment, the before phase, this phase is where most communication mistakes originate, but not because teams do nothing, but because nothing was decided in advance. The lack of preparation makes that many mistakes can made, and we have to be prepared for that. So preparation is not about predicting the crisis, which of course each of you will know what the risks in your organizations are, but about agreeing on how communication decisions will be made. The important thing is also to reduce confusion when the pressure is high. For example, if I'm going to put here an example, if a security incident happens on a Friday afternoon and the comms department is waiting for the legal department is waiting for technical confirmation, the technical teams are still investigating, what happened meanwhile? So rumors can appear online and the organization maybe says nothing for 24 hours. This can lead to a crisis communication. So in this case, in this example, nothing has been planned and the crisis is ongoing. So that is why we are going to address in the before phase what we should do. We are going to go stage by stage. During the crisis, the communication during the crisis is a determining factor as well. So saying something at the time when you say it is important, or to whom you say it can stabilize the situation or damage it faster. So you need to be clear, timely, and consistent in the communication, because this helps reduce uncertainty and maintain trust. Also, delays, silence, as we saw in the United Airlines crisis, or conflicting messages do the opposite. So they increase concern and damage credibility. For example, imagine there's a service outage affecting users, right? Service that failed. And for example, within 30 minutes, the organization publishes a short message saying we're aware of the issue, we're investigating, and we'll update you at 4 p.m. Nothing has been solved yet, of course, because the organization needs to see where is the problem, but at least uncertainty is reduced and people feel acknowledged. So if they try to find information about this service that is not working, they will find that the company, the organization, already went in advance to say, okay, here, we know this is happening, we are trying to solve it, and that's it. You don't need to explain further, you don't need to try to give conclusions yet, nothing. Just acknowledge the situation and give a clear message to your users. And then we are going to address the after, the last phase of the crisis communication life cycle. So communication is one of the factors in restoring confidence following a crisis. The way you sum up the situation, what you say about what was learned, and how well you demonstrate how you have improved will be part of how the crisis will be remembered. So open communication and transparent follow-up assists in restoring trust and promoting credibility, while silence or ambiguity, closure, leaves any doubts unaddressed, and over time, this harms reputation. So imagine a data incident has been committed and resolved, and systems are back. So the organization quietly can move on and don't say nothing. There's no clear summary of what happened, no explanation, nothing, because the service was restored, the service is back, and you say nothing. But externally, people can say, okay, could this happen again? They maybe are wondering, could this happen again? Did they really fix what happened? But if, for example, if a few weeks later, after the service was restored, the organization publishes a clear follow-up message saying what happened, what went wrong, what was learned from this problem that they had, and what has changed as a result. So the confidence in people, the trust, the credibility, the reputation is solved. So preparing before a crisis. Why preparation matters? Most communication crises do not escalate because of the incident in itself, as we said, but because teams are unprepared to communicate under pressure. So when a crisis appears, there is a little time, emotions run high, and decisions are rushed. So preparation allows teams to act calmly because they know how to proceed, they know how to act, what to do. They speak consistently because they have the support of the other teams and avoid mistakes that damage trust. So preparation is not about predicting the crisis. It is about being ready to communicate when uncertainty appears. First of all, you need to define communication priorities. Before anything happens, teams should agree on what communication must protect. So the priorities that you as organization can have in mind are trust and credibility, relationship with partners or clients, internal confidence and alignment, or organizational reputation, or everything. But you need to know the different things that you need to address and the different objectives in a communication crisis that you have. Because having clear priorities helps answer a key question during a crisis. What matters most right now? For example, imagine an organization that works with external partners and clients has a problem. So before any crisis happens, the team agrees on one thing. So trust with partners and internal alignment come first. So they write, because this is very important, and you need to have this in mind, that you need to have some documents. You need to write how the process will be, what the objectives are, and all this. So you write that when a crisis happens, there is a service disruption, for example, that affects a few key partners. The team immediately ask what matters most right now. No, for example, if you have this clear, because you have your priorities and they have been agreed, and the partners are very important, before a public statement is issued, the message should be honest, and you have to write the partners and say, okay, this has happened. We are trying to solve this. We will keep you updated in a few hours, for example. So this was your priority, and then later will come the public communication and so on. Because, for example, imagine that in this case, that the partners are key for you. They know about this problem because of the media, or because they saw that on social media from the organization, like a Twitter from the organization tweet. So this is important to know. First of all, partners, then and also the internal alignment, for example, to say, okay, another internal update will be made at 4 p.m. and we have communicated the partners that this is happening. We don't have much information at the moment, so we don't know the impact, but we are trying to solve and see what the impact is. For example, each of your organization can have different objectives. You should also identify key audiences, because not everyone needs the same message. Before a crisis, you need to identify external audiences, for example, partners, clients, media, or general public. or internal audiences, team members, management, collaborators. This avoids a common mistake. So sending one message to everyone, for example, sometimes is not the best because they need the different audiences have different needs. For example, and with external message, you need to be simple, calm, and non-technical, but maybe internally the message should be more technical because the theme is technical and you need to address what happened and you need to know how to manage all this, for example. You also, when you're preparing before the crisis, you need to define roles and responsibilities. This is very important. One of the biggest risks in a crisis is to have many voices. So preparation means also that you will need to decide in advance who speaks publicly, who approves the messages, who monitors reactions and feedback to be informed all the time, and to whom he has to communicate and who has to report. So there's a simple rule to adopt. If an issue becomes public, only the designated spokesperson communicates externally. Because before a crisis, the roles must be clear and the process of meetings and the way the decisions are made must be clear as well. Because, for example, if you have too many voices, this can make and this can cause a lot of confusion to different audiences that you have. For example, if you have a problem, if you haven't defined any roles, for example, a project manager replies to a comment with partial information because maybe this project manager doesn't have the complete picture, doesn't have the whole information. Maybe he sees a message on social media or someone send the message, a text message to him, and this person replies, but with partial information because this person doesn't have the whole thing, the whole picture. Or for example, a technical lead explains the issue in very technical terms, and maybe the general public don't understand what has happened. Or for example, someone from support that it's getting a lot of emails starts answering these emails with different tone. So you need to agree on everything, the tone, the timeline that you have when a crisis arises, and everything. So this is important to know and the process and to write and document everything. So who is the responsible for that, who speaks publicly, everything. So within the before phase, we have also the strategy to follow and the holding statements. This is also very important because you need to define the path to follow when a crisis appears and decide holding statements that talk about facts and not conclusions. This is very important because in the beginning, you won't know, probably, maybe you will know, but probably you didn't know what happened actually, what causes this failure in the service, the problem itself. So a holding statement is a short, neutral message that acknowledges the situation, shows responsibility, saves time, but it is not the final explanation. This is, as we said, we cannot give conclusions if we don't have the whole information with us and know what was the problem and why this happened. So I put here some example of holding statements. For example, we are aware of the situation and are currently reviewing it carefully. You are sharing that you are acknowledging the situation, that you show responsibility for that, and you're saving time to search and to see what happened in this case, why this service stopped working. Or for example, we take this matter seriously and will provide verified information as it becomes available. So those are two examples, but it is important to have some holding statements prepared, and it has also to be documented in some guidelines for the crisis communication. During the crisis, the first thing that you need to do is to control the first narrative. Controlling the narrative does not mean controlling the facts. It means shaping how those facts are understood and how they are communicated. So you need to be calm and try to be consistent when explaining the situation. The most important thing here is that you shouldn't improvise, never. So narratives are built through consistency. And as we said, as we will see, all the people in the company and the organization need to know how to act and don't improvise. Not even the support team, not the CEO, no one. So there should be a plan, a strategy behind this crisis. And then when you start with the narrative, you have to stick to the plan and stick to the message and be disciplined. So that means that everyone involved communicates the same story in the same way. So there is no way that you say something and maybe other department deliver another message. You cannot do that. If we don't apply discipline, small wording differences become contradictions many of the times. Internal uncertainty leaks externally, because if we don't know how to act internally, maybe we have friends that are asking us and we answer, and we can cause a lot of confusion and uncertainty here. And also informal comments get amplified. Sometimes you say, okay, I don't know, you deliver an informal message and then this gets bigger. So what do we gain with discipline? So that the narrative stays stable, that credibility is preserved, and also it helps to maintain trust, again, as we said before, reputation, trust, everything. During the crisis as well, we need to adapt messages to the different audiences that we have, because adapting messages to audiences also does not mean changing the story. In a crisis, one narrative must be held, but not all audiences need the same level of detail or the same language or the same focus. Balance your message. For public audiences, technical partners, internal teams, you need to take this into account. There are many audiences to communicate with. For example, internal emails need to act as guidance. For example, what to do, and be clear, short message, what to do, the plan, when are we going to update you, and everything. Press statements need to be clear and accountant, and to direct partner communication should be all the time, try to be reliable and keep them updated. For example, a technical incident causes temporary disruption to a digital service. So the core narrative agreed internally is, okay, we identified an issue, we are addressing it, and we are keeping stakeholders informed as we restore normal operations. Okay, this is the story and doesn't change. But for example, maybe internally, we say in some emails, we have identified for the company, we have identified the source of the disruption and mitigation is underway. Please avoid external speculation and direct any inquiries to the communication lead. Next internal update should be, for example, at 3 p.m. So this is an internal message, an internal email that has to be delivered to the rest of the company. But for example, for the press, you need to give another message. It could be, we are aware of a service disruption affecting some users. Our teams are actively working to resolve the issue, and we will provide updates as soon as more information is confirmed, for example. And for example, for partners, the message could be, the issue has been identified and mitigation steps are in place, At this stage, we don't expect long-term impact on joint operations. We will keep you informed of any developments that may affect delivery, for example. So it's the same story, the core message doesn't change, but of course, the audiences are different. You need to communicate different actions to take, for example, for the internal teams, but the message is the same. So you need to be consistent all the time and don't change the message and the narrative. This is very, very important. As we said before, you don't need to communicate conclusions. And of course, not from the beginning, because you don't know maybe what happened. So communicating progress means explaining what you are doing, which is very important for the different audiences to see. Not what you already know, because maybe you know more than you can actually tell. And you should keep the message because you know how to handle this, and you need to agree maybe in the process within the company, and internally you agreed on a procedure. The guidelines say something and you know what happened, but you just need to communicate progress. That's it, no conclusions. Because early conclusions often turns out to be wrong, because sometimes if you didn't get the final conclusion, the final problem, and the final thing that happened, you probably will be wrong, and you will be you will need to correct that publicly if you already said something as a conclusion. This will damage credibility, of course, and also reputation. And you shift the narrative from responsibility to inconsistency. You will be perceived as an inconsistent organization that doesn't know actually what happened, and people could be more confused with your declaration. And then we have the after the crisis recovery and reputation strategy. So why this phase matters? Because as we said before, it could be that the service of the problem has been solved and the organization let it go and move on, and it acts as this never happened, because the service is working properly and everything is fine. But this phase is really, really important, and it's important that it is also explained in the guidelines, in the documents that you will write internally in the organization, because this phase is where where short-term crisis management turns into long-term trust. So this will help you in your reputation, or maybe not, because as we said before, maybe people from outside the organization are wondering, okay, did they actually solve what happened? Will it happen again? Should I change company because this is not trustworthy? I don't know. So during the crisis, credibility is protected through, as we said, and as we addressed, calm messaging, responsibility, acknowledgement, consistency, the times also, and everything. So during the crisis, you handle and you manage everything, the message, the narrative, you're calm. But after the crisis, this credibility is built through visible actions, clear improvements, and sustained communication. So as we also saw before, you will need to address what happened again, explain again, tell what you changed for this not to happen again, and so on, as we will see now. So after the crisis, there are some key communication actions that you need to take into account. So close the loop. Say clearly that the situation has been reviewed and addressed. Also explain what happened. Share what was improved or fixed. Show responsibility and learning. Acknowledge the issue and show that lessons were taken seriously. And finally, reach out directly to partners, teams, or stakeholders who were affected. And this will address this now. Okay, as we saw, explain what changed and improved. What changed? It could be that maybe you learned that the roles that you assigned in the beginning and in your plan and in your documents are not the best one, because you can see that other roles work better and take the responsibility better, are clearer, and has like more importance for the users and for the public and the different audiences. It could be that. Could be that the procedures or approval processes were updated because the ones that you had maybe didn't work or had some failures or some things that should be improved. It could be that change the way you monitor and escalate now are better defined because you also saw some problems in that. And what was improved? Maybe you're faster now and more coordinated when delivering responses. You are more consistent in communication terms, and you can reduce the risk of confusion or repetition in the next time when this, hopefully not, but maybe can happen again. So maybe an statement use in this case could be, we use this experience, okay, when you explain everything, how you address the problem and that everything is solved, you also can say, okay, we use this experience to clarify roles, improve the processes that we have in our company, and strengthen how we monitor and respond. So we now can act faster and communicate more clearly going forward, for example. So something that you like wrap up in a message, everything that you learned, that you changed, that you improved, everything. And then, because with all this, you will reinforce trust with the key stakeholders. So do not rely on public statements. This is very, very important because you have different stakeholders for your company and you need to address the problem with each of them, and the messages should be different. So you need to reach out personally to those most affected. For example, I put here some examples that can help you when a crisis communication is solved, but you need to address the after phase. And for example, for your partners, if you decide that your partners are the most important thing for you as a company, you need to schedule follow-up calls with key partners to explain if they have questions that they can ask them to you and you can answer and you can discuss a little bit. Maybe they can also help with some ideas to make you improve for the next time. But this will help a lot of this will help you, and this will give them a lot of confidence and a lot of trust, and your credibility will be better. You also can send tailored updates to funders from time to time, like everything is still under control. This never happened again after this problem that we had, and so on. You also can hold internal briefings for teams and from time to time to check if everything is going well, to explain that this problem didn't appear again, whatever. You also always have to be and seem available and responsive, not just for partners, for funders, but also for teams internally. This is very important. And you need to involve stakeholders in the way forward. As I said, for example, if you arrange any calls with some calls with the partners to ask for feedback, to ask for ideas, to also that they see that you trust in them as partner, as funder, as everything. Okay, and you need to integrate learning into future communication. A crisis should not end when the issue is resolved. As we said, we need to continue trying to build trust and credibility. Its real value lies in how learning is embedded into future communication practices. You need to update the guidance and the documents that you have. So what to do? You need to review also the messages you delivered, when you delivered, and if it worked or not, or if it was worse that you, for example, delivered many messages in a row, for example, in 5 messages in an hour. Maybe it's not necessary to act like that. So you need to review and to keep in mind what happened, what it worked, what it didn't work that good. Also, the channels used, because the channel, as we said in the beginning, with the example of the United Breaks guitar song, is very important. For example, if we were United Airlines, we should have replied with a video on YouTube as the Taylor company did, because this was the channel that Dave Carroll chose to explain what happened and to raise his claim and explain the problem to the whole world, because now it's the case that is studied about the crisis communication on social media, for example. So the channel is very important. You also need to identify where confusion, delays, or pressure appeared. So, for example, you started with a narrative, with a message, and you found out that maybe that narrative was not the best because it created confusion, and the people started talking, and the message started to getting bigger and to escalate to other channels, for example. So you have to review this and identify when this happened and where. Note that what helped maintain clarity and trust. Also, you need to identify what worked really well, and you need to use it for the next time that the crisis appears, and use it and try to use what helped to the whole strategy and to the whole process. Yes, as I said, I put here the document that you have to write everything, which is better for you and better also for the company, because if some people leave the company and another new members come to the company and join the team, they need to know how to act, when to act, how this work, what worked really well in the past, what happened, if this is a common issue that appears all the time, or it's a rare thing that you have to be aware of. So documenting which messages reduce questions and which create the confusion, it's very important as well. And then update communication tools and materials, as we said, revise processes and holding statements. Also, maybe you come up with another holding statement that maybe you think, are you listening? Because a message appeared here, Marva?
Yes, we can see everything and we can listen also, at least from my side.
Okay, because I got a message on my computer, I don't know. Sorry. So update communication tools and materials. You need to revise the processes and holding statements. You need to improve the Q&A templates, because maybe a problem that appeared and this problem created the whole crisis communication, it's a very common problem that can appear in another time. And if you have it on your website as a Q&A template that can help users not to fail on or how to solve if this problem appears, they will know that you are aware of that you can help them, that you had this problem in the past and you can improve. I don't know. Also, you can update the spokesperson guidelines, because this person, maybe the person who take the role of a spokesperson didn't act as one, and maybe this person doesn't know how to act, and it's good again to have it documented, to have it written down in a document. And also, just in case this person leaves the company, another person comes, and this person becomes the new spokesperson for crisis communication. And also clarify roles for future situations. So confirm who. This is very, very important. When to meet, with whom to meet, confirm who approves the messages, define who monitors reactions, and who make escalation paths explicit. I mean, you need to know the whole way, the whole path from the beginning till the end, because this will this needs to be very clear for every team in the company, so not to make any mistake and to solve the problem quicker. And now, key takeaways and conclusions. As we said in the beginning, we need to have a clear communication objective from the beginning, or maybe more than one, but at least know that we have many audiences to reach, or many objectives to achieve. Respond using the same communication channel through which the inquiry was received, because one thing that we can happen, and actually in Spain it was many years ago, but it was the Actimel crisis. Actimel is kind of a yogurt. I don't know if your countries you also have it. The brand that it's behind the Actimel is Danone. And it happened that some users were questioning Actimel's health claims and marketing, health on Twitter. I think it was on Twitter. And people started talking about if that product was actually healthy or not. And it was just on Twitter. But then Actimel and Danone knew about this problem, about this conversation that was taking place on Twitter, now called X. But they decided to also create like a holding statement and a whole message, but they put this message everywhere. So they make this visible on the website. They didn't respond. I think they didn't respond directly to these people who were talking about those characteristics of this product, but they made this like bigger, because a lot of people who didn't know that this problem was taking place, and these people that were not on X, on Twitter, they knew that something was going on, and this made like a lot of confusion, and the problem was bigger, of course, because they used all the channels. It is different when, for example, because they had this criticism from X, but it's different, for example, for the case of FKC that we saw in the beginning, because they had a problem with logistics. They decided to try to reach as many people as they could. So that's why they used the newspaper, which in 2018 was like a big thing where most people could get informed about the problem. So, but if you get a critic from a channel, use the channel to respond. Don't try to make it bigger, because this could lead to a bigger communication crisis if this is worse. Also, another thing that we addressed in this training pill is the roles. That you need to designate roles, clear roles and procedures, and stick to a plan. So build the whole strategy from the beginning, from the before, during, and after. And also, don't forget to handle the situation when the crisis has ended. As we said, wrapping up all things, all the learnings, all the things that you change, updated, and that the problem is solved. It's also important, not just move on and try to do as if nothing happened. Okay, so we have ended the training pill. Thank you so much. Now I will respond to your questions. Let me check how to stop sharing my screen. Okay. Can you see me? Yes. Now everything is fine.
Yes.
I don't know if you have any questions, doubts, suggestions, anything that you want to share that happened to you in your organization, or a problem that you heard about and how they solved this problem and the crisis communication. So I'm here to help. I will share this presentation with Marva, and she will share with you, right, Marva? Yes. So if any doubt appears, even though maybe you don't have doubts, but when you share this presentation with your team members and your work colleagues, and maybe you can share something with me, I can ask any question. You can, Marva also can share with you my email address, and I will be more than happy to answer.